Sean Combs will remain in custody as he awaits sentencing. Yesterday, Combs was acquitted of sex trafficking and racketeering, the most serious charges against him. He was convicted of prostitution-related offenses. Combs has been behind bars since his arrest last year. His lawyers had asked that he be released while awaiting sentencing, but a judge denied bond, citing his violence toward his former girlfriends. Sentencing is set for October 3rd, but the judge will consider the defense's request for an earlier date. Combs faces up to 10 years in prison.
Joining us now to talk about the verdict is legal analyst Areva Martin. Good morning.
Good morning, Larry and Brett.
We think about racketeering, we think about the mob and RICO. Is there something too complicated about it for juries where this is kind of a tall order?
I don't think, Larry, it's too complicated because we saw RICO statutes being used with respect to the prosecution of R. Kelly right there in Chicago. So I wouldn't say that it's too complicated. I think we just have to conclude from the verdict in this case that this particular jury decided that the evidence presented by the prosecution did not rise to the level that is required in order for them to have determined that the case was proven by the prosecution beyond reasonable doubt. I don't think we can read too much into this verdict as it relates to other cases. You have to look at each case on its own merit and the evidence that prosecutors can marshal for any given case.
And in regards to this case, do you read anything into the questions the jury was kicking back to the judge as to why that they did not go for racketeering?
I think that the questions clearly indicated that they did not believe in the evidence that had been presented by the prosecution. I think we're going to learn a lot from these jurors. Oftentimes after big high-profile trials like this, jurors will do interviews. They'll sit down with anchors. They'll sit down with various individuals and give us an insight into what their thinking was as they went through the deliberative process. We don't know a whole lot about these jurors at this point, but we're all eager to learn how they came to this, what is clearly a split decision.
Right.
Well, in the defense, they're taking this as a win since he was acquitted of the most serious charges here, but there's still jail time on the table. What's the best and worst case scenario for Sean Combs?
Well, let's be real clear. This is not a win in any sense of the word, because clearly he is still behind bars and he was convicted of 2 felonies, each which carries a sentence of 10 years, and those 10 years can be served consecutively. The judge ultimately has decision in what amount of time he will be given. But given that bail was denied yesterday by the judge, it suggests that the judge, sitting as the 13th juror, heard all the evidence of violence, even the statements made by his own defense team, and decided that Combs would be a threat if he were released pending his sentencing. I suspect that the judge's denial of bail probably tells us that when sentencing does occur in October, that he is likely to face some jail time, could be anywhere from 5 to up to 8, perhaps even 10 years.
What can you tell us in regards to the criminal trial that may impact the civil cases?
Well, we know there are approximately 70 civil cases that have been filed against Combs. Many of those, I suspect, will be settled out of court with non-disclosure agreements. Others will move forward and actually be tried in civil courts. This verdict could have an impact, I would say, in a positive way for some of the plaintiffs that have filed civil cases against him. And it may encourage other victims to come forward, so we may actually see additional cases being filed after the outcome of the criminal trial yesterday.
All right, Areva Martin, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.